Hey, my name's Laraib. I am a first year and my major is pre-HPM and a minor in Spanish. I was raised Muslim ever since I was younger. My parents are very religious. I was originally born in New York, so I was born in a brown community where there were a lot of Muslims surrounding me, so it was a little easier. I moved here when I was about 10, and so I moved to Wake Forest, North Carolina, which is more of a white center town, and so it was really hard finding other Muslims, and therefore it was harder to connect with other people, and so I think that made me stray from my faith a little bit. But coming towards the end of high school, after the presidential election where the religion was kind of under attack by the media and stuff, I found myself defending it more, and so defending it more meant I learned more about it, and I developed my own interpretation of it rather than my parents' interpretation of Islam. And then college has kind of strengthened how religious I am. My parents' interpretation, no bashing on it. I loved how they raised me. I think the way they raised me built the character I am today, but I definitely feel like their interpretation has a lot more to do with culture back in Pakistan, because I feel like Islam is a religion that always gets intertwined with culture a lot, and therefore disorientates the real image of it. And so by reading it myself and actually learning about it myself, I was able to actually learn about it and interpret it to where I feel like it fit me. I consider myself Pakistani American. I've gone back often. I'm very close to my family there.
Okay, so what are some tangible ways that you practice your faith here at UNC?
So there's a prayer room in the Union downstairs, and so I definitely go in there a lot. I pray. I try 5 times a day. One of them is really early, so I usually stuff that in with another prayer. We have Jummah prayer, which occurs on Fridays. It's kind of like going to church on Sundays, and so we do that. On campus, those are really it, considering not much has happened for the religion.
Okay, what do you mean
So Ramadan is something we celebrate once a year, and so I do that every day of the month at home. I haven't had a chance to do it on campus yet, but I will look forward to doing it.
And is that fasting?
Yeah, it's
during
fasting.
daylight?
Yeah, it's fasting from sunrise to sunset, and then you also have to participate in charity work, and so that's what we do. I'm also really involved with the Muslim Student Association on campus, and so we help with a lot of charity work there, which I consider part of the religion.
Awesome. Yeah, what does that look like? How big is that organization?
So MSA, the Muslim Student Association, is, I want to say, really big. All of my friends I've met are in it besides my roommates and stuff. And really, that's kind of a club where you can be really active or you can not be really active but still be a part of the community that MSA is. And so I would like to say it's pretty big. My best friend is Jewish. She's also my roommate. And my other 2 friends here are my suite mates, and one of them's Baha'i and one of them's agnostic, atheist, kind of falling under that. So as for my big friend circle, they're Muslim, but I also have other really close friends.
And I'm curious, how have you had any interesting conversations with your really close friends who are of different faiths?
So I'll start with other faiths. I told you I have a best friend who's Jewish. She and I actually agree on a lot of things, probably because the Abrahamic religions are so close together. As for my suite mate who's agnostic, we've definitely had she completely understands everywhere I'm coming from, but she has different views, so just about what God does, why is he here. But I definitely think, as for Muslims, there's so many variety of beliefs as for the interpretations, so I find myself butting heads with them more, just about small things, what kind of meat can you eat? Does it have to be halal? Does it not have to be halal? What's the appropriate dressing for women and men? Prayer posture. So I think there's more butting heads within the religion than there is with other religions. So I follow a zabiha lifestyle, excluding chicken, which basically means all the meat I eat is halal except for chicken, and I don't eat pork. If I eat beef or turkey, it's usually halal. The dining hall, I usually have stuck to avoiding the chicken as well and just kind of eating the vegetarian options, which there are a lot of, so I like that. But also it's a little harder when you expect the pasta to be vegetarian, and then they have like sausage in it, which is something you can't eat at all.
So what is your involvement in Muslim Students Association look like?
So I consider myself a semi-active member. I definitely go to all the big events, and I like volunteering in the charity work cases that they sometimes send out, like, hey, volunteering this, volunteering this. I haven't gone to much of, like, there's like Quran readings in the prayer room. I haven't gone to much of those, and my excuse is like I have a midterm the next day, or I have like a lot of homework, but it's probably just because I haven't found the effort to get off South Campus and walk to main campus and do that.
Gotcha. And how does like prayer 5 times a day work with your class schedule?
So usually there's a big range of time which you can pray. The mornings is usually when the sun rises, and so that's a little hard to wake up to and then go back to sleep. So what I do is when I pray my afternoon prayer, like usually before or after class, I combine my morning prayer in it if I miss it. And one of the shorter prayers is the sunset prayer, because it's only valid while the sun is setting. And so with that, I usually try to do it right after I get out of class if I do have one.
Do you feel like there's any places on campus that are like more or less not safe for you to practice your faith, but like that you feel more comfortable practicing?
So on campus, the prayer room's a really big one, just because it's, you know, the prayer room. I nap in there, I study in there, I pray in there. So that's definitely a safe space. As for, like, let's say if I were to pray in the middle of campus, I definitely think I would feel safe if I was surrounded by all students rather than people who don't belong to the university. So I just think UNC has this more open-minded setting, rather than if strangers were to come on the campus, then they would think it was a little strange.
And that's interesting that you bring up the difference between like students here and like kind of outside the university setting. What do you think is the difference?
One might just be like generation things, like, you know, like old people who come on here, they probably haven't been exposed to much. But also I think staying at a campus like UNC, you see so much diversity. Like I told you, I'm from Wake Forest, so there's things I've seen here that I've never seen in Wake Forest. And so I think the fact that students come here, they interact with other students of different faiths, of different identities, that brings them more like, oh, this is normal. Like, I don't understand it, but I'm not afraid of it.
And this might be a base question, but is that a good thing?
I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little bored. In Wake Forest, I always had challenging opinions than what I thought, and here it kind of feels like it's clumped, and so I feel like there's a less challenge. So good thing in a way that I feel safer, but as for a difference in opinion, I like to be challenged, and I think everyone should be challenged for their minds and ideologies to grow, so a bad way in that.
That makes a lot of sense. And when you were in Wake Forest, did you ever have like an altercation with anybody? Did anybody ever like directly like confront you or say anything about your faith?
Never in a way that was like hostile, that made me feel unsafe, more so than annoyed. It was kind of like frustrating to see how like they knew so little about the faith, but like felt like they can make jokes about it, or like just assume things like women are oppressed and all of that things. After the Chapel Hill shooting with our 3 winners, my family, I wouldn't say close, but we knew of them. We had mutual friends and stuff. And so after that shooting, it was just kind of shitty, I want to say, to see like all the ignorance surrounding it and how much attention wasn't being brought to it.
So had you ever met them personally?
Yes, so they went to my mosque, and Faris Baraka, he owns the Lighthouse Project now. He runs it, which is basically a project in Raleigh that kind of, it's just like a place for children to go, like the Muslim community to go and feel safe. It's supposed to spread light, so to say, in a way that like betters its community. So I've done a lot of things with him as well.
Awesome. Is there anything that you feel like people don't understand about Muslim students here at UNC?
So a big thing is just like, we're not all extremists, and it's not bad if we are extremists, but I think people don't understand that there's like a range. Just like Christianity, there's a range of how religious you are and how religious like you aren't, or maybe how much you practice, or how much you don't practice even though you are still religious. I feel like everyone has this one view of a Muslim, and that's because of media and how they portray them. And so I think one thing is like, not all Muslims you meet are gonna be hijabis, and not all like Muslim men you meet are gonna have beards. Like, it's just like not how they're portrayed.
Yeah. And it's interesting too that you brought up media. So what can media be doing differently?
I think just not only targeting foreign countries, but rather targeting Muslims who actually live here. I definitely think that's a big thing. Like, you see Muslims in like foreign affair issues, but you don't really see Muslims in America and how they live. So maybe just looking into a mosque, you know, like when there's mosque shootings or something like that, which I hate to say happens, but it happens. I feel like they don't get as much coverage as like other bigger institutions.
Are you kind of thinking about like the Pittsburgh shooting like a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, the Pittsburgh shooting, but I also felt like that didn't get as much attention. Like, it's kind of died down already.
As what would that be opposed to, like a synagogue and a mosque?
Synagogue, mosque compared to like a church in Texas. Like, when that happened, I feel like that definitely outstretched longer, and maybe that has other factors to do where that's when like the gun control issue really popped up rather than this one where we've kind of given up on the gun control issue. I'm gonna steer away from that. But just kind of, I feel like since Muslims are less represented in America, they're less represented in media in America, but rather focus on foreign ways. So I think just realizing that Muslims do make up a good portion of America.
Yeah. And then going back, you said, I think a couple minutes ago, that it wasn't like a bad thing to be like an extremist. Like, can you elaborate on that?
So I consider an extremist Muslim to be much different than the extremists defined by like our past presidential candidates and all of that. So not ISIS, but like just someone who completely follows, like, you know, they wear the hijab, they pray 5 times a day, they do everything listed in the Quran. I don't think that's bad. I think that's just their way of practice, and even though I wouldn't live like that, I think they're free to live like that. But I definitely don't consider ISIS to be extremist Islam. I just don't consider it to be Islam at all.
Okay, that makes sense. And finally, what do you think UNC, is there anything UNC could be doing better to, like, you know, make people more aware of faith and culture?
I definitely think maybe going out of their way to do interfaith relations rather than just focusing on the MSA, just because I feel like that would educate so many more people, not only realize like the differences in their religion, but the similarities they have. And so I think we're doing okay. We have our own room, we have our own prayer room and office. I think we're doing okay individually, but I think interacting with other communities on campus.